Hey y'all, welcome back to the Hack Shack. Right behind me on this table is a TRS Model III that's in a few pieces, and it's been that way for almost 2 years now. So I figure today, the last day of Septandy 2025, may be the day that I need to stop pretending it's a shelf, get it back together, see if it works, and if I can finish what I started. You know what they say about flat spaces? They become storage. Somewhere under this pile is a TRS-80 Model III. It's been sitting here for about 2 years, and with Septandy wrapping up, I figured it's time to finally redeem myself. Let's see if we can bring this thing back to life. I bought this thing off a Facebook marketplace from some very interesting folks. I'm not saying it was dropped, but the CRT was definitely flopping around inside this case. When I opened it up, the mounts were broken or nearly broken on all 4 corners. Quick note, this isn't a how-to video, it's just me sharing what I've done. CRTs can hold a dangerous charge even when they're unplugged, so if you're going to work on one, please take proper precautions or get help from someone experienced. They're beautiful old displays, but they can definitely bite. Anyway, I went through a whole trial and error process for building those mounts. Gluing, re-gluing, reprinting braces, filling with epoxy until I finally had something solid. If you want to see more about that repair process, I'll drop a link down in the description. It was a lot of trial and error, but it actually worked out great. It's not pretty, but it's solid. And honestly, that whole iterative 3D printing and epoxy marathon totally drained my motivation. I'd already ordered a FreHD for it, but I needed a break. Fast forward 2 years, and this poor thing's been sitting here under a pile of shame. But hey, Septandy's the perfect excuse to finally get it back together. I got the CRT back in, reattached the yoke and tail connector, crossed my fingers, and... Hey, what's that? So that definitely looks a little twisted up, so maybe I can adjust that. And I had an image. A crooked image. After a little yoke tweaking, it straightened right up. And honestly, seeing that CRT glow again after all this time felt pretty amazing. Next up, the FreHD. And I think that's what they call it, FreHD, but it's FreHD. So I guess the H is silent. If you've never used one, and heck, I'm just now beginning to use one, it's a little solid state replacement that can emulate TRS-80 hard drives. And it does it with an SD card, and you can boot software directly with no other drives needed if you've got the correct ROM in place. It came inside this case, but my plans were to eventually mount it inside the case of the computer. The first thing I did was replace the ROM in position U106 with this auto boot ROM. And then I connected this ribbon cable to the expansion port on the underside of the computer case. Thought it should be working, but it wasn't booting up as I expected. Nothing was happening. It was booting up just like it didn't have that ROM in there that I'd added. I tried a bunch of stuff that I won't bother to show you here because it took me quite a while to figure out what's going on. But here's what the problem was. There was no problem with the FreHD, it was me. So a lot of folks power these from external power supplies, but I was using the power from inside the computer. And it's got a little PIC chip in there and some stuff, so it takes it a second to boot up, right? But now when I'm powering it off the computer, if I just flip the switch in the computer, it's booted up a little bit before the FreHD's ready. And that's what was happening. And then I finally realized on accident here that if I power it up and then hit the reset button, I get the FreHD boot menu as expected, and it's great. So after I made sure that the FreHD was okay, I printed out a couple of little pieces here to let me mount it internally to fill up this drive bay. And used a little super glue and some pieces to kind of hold them together. And got that mounted. Took a little extra time and tried to route the cable in a way that made the most sense, so that took a little bit of time. Got that all together, buttoned up, and then it was time for the big moment of truth, which was really stressing me out. And that was putting the top back on the case, because if you can see here, that neck for the CRT is poking way out. And I think it's a kind of a common occurrence for folks that aren't experienced on these things to snap the neck of this CRT when they put it back together or when they take it apart. So I very gingerly put it back together. Gave things a cleaning. and fired it up with my fingers crossed. But that's where it stands right now. It works. The CRT looks great. The Fred's alive. This old Tandy's officially running again. There's at least one or two of those infamous RIFA caps in there, and they look like they've already given up the magic smoke. Technically, they aren't needed for this to run, but I think I will plan on replacing those. And maybe just give the power supplies a recap while I'm back in there. But for now, I'm happy it's back together and working, and I'm just going to enjoy it a little bit before I tear it apart again. After 2 years of collecting dust, seeing that screen flicker back to life feels really good. So no, it's not fully restored, but it's alive, and I actually got something Tandy running for Septandy this year. I'll take that as a win. Between this and the Arbitron, I think that earns me my Septandy badge this year. Hey, if you made it this far, thanks for watching. Hope to see you again next time. Take care. Bye-bye.